The problem with getting these spells and rituals from any social media platform, from Googling, from YouTube, from TikTok even, is you don't know how they derived. You don't have a clue where it came from. A lot of these people are intermixing all these different practices. A lot of people that claim Ifa aren't true to Eseshe. So you go your butt on YouTube thinking that you're learning from someone knowledgeable in Ifa, and they teaching you leukemia and candomblé. They're called oral traditions and closed practices for a reason. The problem is no one wants to take time to learn properly because they don't care about spirituality. They care about magic and power. Folks want to skip the learning, the studying, and the guidance and go straight to the rituals and the spells. That's why y'all asses is on Google and YouTube.
Tituba was a Negro said to be Indian woman, born in Arawak village in South America. Before she was captured at the age of 12 and taken to Barbados. There is no concrete evidence of when Tituba was born or when she perished. And because of the early dated education, record keeping, and, miseducation, Tituba was also spelled and said several different ways. Tete, Teba, Tabi, Tatabi, Titubi, Tip Top, Tibba, Titaba. It's so strange because after further research and digging more investigating into the names that are mentioned, the book titled Tituba refers to not having any concrete dates of when she was born or when she actually perished. Tituba, 1674. Samuel Parris owned Tituba as a slave owner. He had 2 daughters and a son, and that is who Tituba was to look after while he was no longer being a reverend. What's not known is that Parris used Tituba's body whether she was married or not. He considered her his property, and he did engage with relations. And they had been claiming mysterious visions and illusions that had all to be acclaimed by a supernatural force. Tituba was captured and sold to Parris in Barbados, a later known pastor of Salem, who traveled thereafter to search for domestic slaves and had become a fail, actually. So the story has it that Joel A. Rogers sketched in his 1940 comic book titled Your History, John Indian and Tituba were 2 West Indian Negro slaves that were originators of the Great Witchcraft Scare of Salem, Massachusetts. And what some people are not aware of is that Mary Black was actually included in the witch trials with Tituba. There were other Black witches that were involved in the Salem witch trials that are really not discussed or talked about. But the magical part of this is that none of them actually had to be persecuted after trial. None of them were hanged to their death or, taken out by fire, stake, how they used to do the witches when they found out their fate. Like I mentioned, there were other Black Salem witches involved. Candy, she was also a part of the Salem witch trials with Tituba. But these records of photos and history are not really documented properly in the form where we can go back and reflect on. And the fact that they wanted to save these women's lives and not have them perish like their counterparts shows the true power that they felt would be returned back to them in some way if they did any harm to them. So I feel like they did not be really punished because they were afraid that something bad would happen to them. And that truly is magical power. You can use the Salem Witch Trials book as a reference guide, but as far as the Black side, John Hale, the author of The Modest Inquiry into the Nature of Witchcraft and How a Person Can Be Guilty of That Crime and Convicted, and the means for their discovery discussed, both negatively and affirmatively according to the scripture and experience. This pastor of the Church of Christ in Beverly created this book and wrote these scriptures that you could use against and condemn women who you thought and men too, but mostly women, who you thought were a part of witchcraft. And this was a condemning tool that became a weapon ultimately. And with all the similarities in the testimonies on record by all three black witches of Salem, all relating to that they had been contacted directly from their quote-unquote mistress or a tall, dark man, all referred to as Satan. But was it actually their owners or masters who were playing the ones leading into this devilish confusion and delusion over these women? If you truly think about the context of all records that are mentioned, this dark figure came to them and presented them an offer. Yet when they were on their own land and turf, they were never bothered with or considered a harm or threat in that form and sense. So you could piece everything together with just realizing something really and truly doesn't make sense. And it made me stop and wonder to think, were these Puritan men really a part of the devil's game? Enjoy the readings. Get Witchy Poo merch at wattsfamilybusiness.com.